For a decade, the back of the Formula One grid operated on a single, unspoken rule. If you want a seat at Haas, you'd better wear red in the junior categories. But while Maranello was looking the other way, the clever seat pipeline Toyota, just built at Haas, completely rewrote the rulebook. And in the process, Ferrari's driver plan just collapsed. Everyone in the paddock with a microphone is telling you this is just a technical partnership. A few Gazoo Racing logos on the front wing, some wind tunnel data, and a polite handshake. But if you look past the PR statements, you'll see a silent takeover of Formula One's most crucial real estate, the rookie waiting room. Toyota didn't buy an F1 team. They didn't even commit to building an engine. They did something far more dangerous to Ferrari's ecosystem. They bought the influence. By funding a massive testing of previous cars program, Toyota is quietly funneling their own Super Formula champions into the cockpit, absorbing the track time, the data, and the simulator roles. Meanwhile, Ferrari's academy drivers are suddenly left standing outside a door they used to own the keys to. Maranello thought they controlled the Haas garage. They were wrong. This is the story of how an automotive giant silently outmaneuvered the most political team in F1 without ever declaring war. If you want to understand how the grid's power dynamics actually work behind closed doors, hit subscribe right now. Let's break down the pipeline. To see what changed, you have to start with the arrangement that came before it. Because for years, it was one of the most comfortable setups in the sport. Ferrari's relationship with Haas goes back to the team's first race in 2016, and it was never subtle. Haas bought Ferrari's power unit and gearbox, took selected parts, put its design office in Maranello, and had Italian constructor Dallara build the car. That's not a rivalry. That's a dependency. And dependency comes with influence. When Ferrari wanted a young academy driver to get real Formula One seasoning without the pressure of a front-running seat, the customer garage was right there. Mick Schumacher spent 2 years in it. Oliver Behrman stepped straight into it. The pattern was simple enough that people stopped questioning it. Maranello grooms them, Haas races them, and when Ferrari needs the seat back, it gets the seat back. Then, in October 2024, a second partner walked in. And this is where the layering starts. Toyota's return to Formula One wasn't announced as a return at all. It was a technical partnership, framed around driver, engineer, and mechanic development, dressed in the language of collaboration rather than ambition. People close to the deal described it in almost corporate terms. 3 words: people, product, pipeline. Repeated in every statement like a mantra. It sounded like sponsorship. It read like a training scheme. And the crucial detail, the one that made Ferrari comfortable, was that Toyota wasn't touching the engine. Maranello's supply stayed exactly where it was, and Toyota, of all manufacturers, had reason to move quietly. The last time it ran a full works team, from 2002 to 2009, it spent close to $3 billion across 8 seasons, and never won a single race. One of the most expensive near misses the sport has ever seen. A company burned that badly doesn't come back with a marching band. It comes back sideways, as a partner, testing the water one carefully worded press release at a time. In the background, that partnership was quietly growing the team. Across 2 seasons, Haas went from around 230 people to roughly 380, a scale of hiring Komatsu has openly said would have been impossible without Toyota's backing. And the way he describes the point of it is telling. Formula One, he said, is simply the best environment there is to train people fast. Problems that would take 3 months to crack in the corporate world get solved here in 2 weeks. That's the people. That's the product. The pipeline was the word everyone underrated. What Toyota did instead was find the one part of a Formula One operation that was sitting almost completely unused. Testing in current cars is throttled to almost nothing under the rules. The sport guards track time like treasure. But there's a carve-out, a legal one, for running older machinery. Testing of previous cars, TPC. A car at least 2 seasons old. On circuits away from race weekends. Haas had never really bothered with it. Running a 2-year-old F1 car isn't cheap. Track rental, tires, engine mileage, a full trackside crew. And for a team counting every euro, the sums rarely justified it. So the allowance sat there, permitted and unused, year after year. Toyota picked it up and turned it into a season-long program. Across 2025, the team ran 14 days of TPC in the 2023 car, the VF23, at Silverstone, Paul Ricard, Imola, Mugello, and Fuji Speedway, Toyota's own circuit. And the drivers weren't teenagers being handed a treat. They brought Ryo Hirakawa, a world endurance champion who's since served as a Haas reserve. They brought Ritomo Miyata and Sho Suboi, both Super Formula champions. They brought Kamui Kobayashi, a former F1 racer, though in his case, the stated aim was that he'd coach the younger ones afterward. This wasn't a fun run. Toyota's global motorsport director Masaya Kaji told motorsport.com exactly what Suboi's day at Fuji was. A kind of audition, or selection, he said, meant to measure real performance, and he made a point of adding that the test was not a reward for winning a title, purely, in his words, based on performance. And Kaji was careful not to let it sound like a coronation. Super Formula results alone, he said, wouldn't decide anything, and there were no clear boundaries, no guaranteed graduation from a good day in the car to a race seat. It was an evaluation, run at the standard of a real Formula One team, with real consequences attached. That framing matters, because it's the whole distance between a sponsor doing a favor and a manufacturer running an actual selection process. Look at what that produces. While Ferrari's academy drivers were running Formula 2, spec cars, tightly limited running, Toyota's contenders were logging real mileage in genuine Formula One machinery, generating real data, learning how an F1 car loads its tires and carries its downforce. Two development systems aimed at the same destination, and only one of them had its drivers actually turning F1 laps. The track program was the visible layer. Underneath it, Toyota was building something harder to see. For its entire existence, Haas had leaned on Ferrari's facilities for the digital side of the job. The simulator at Maranello, the wind tunnel, the tools a team normally keeps in-house. That kept Haas cheap, and it kept Haas close to Ferrari. As part of the new deal, Toyota funded a change, a simulator installed at the team's Banbury base in England, coming online for 2026, and reporting from late 2025 pointed to a Toyota-financed wind tunnel in the UK as well. Read plainly. That's a team building its own infrastructure for the first time, and quietly loosening its reliance on the partner it had leaned on since day one. Now, be careful here, because this is exactly the point where a story like this wants to run past the facts. There's no evidence of anything hidden or rigged in that simulator. Haas still used Ferrari's Maranello rig through 2025, and the team has been open about the Banbury build in its own announcements. What's changed isn't secrecy, it's ownership. For the first time, Haas is developing the muscle to run its own driver-in-loop work, on its own site, with Toyota's money behind it. And whoever's feeding that system real-world data has a natural head start in shaping it. Right now, the drivers feeding it that data are Toyota's. Stack those layers, and the shape finally shows. Engine dependency on Ferrari, intact. A season of real F1 mileage for Toyota's juniors. Done. A home simulator and tunnel being built. And over all of it, a mantra with the word pipeline sitting in the middle of it, and a chairman who stopped being coy about what he wants from it. Because Akio Toyoda, when the title deal was confirmed, didn't talk like a sponsor. He talked about watching young Toyota drivers begin to believe in their own potential, about the next generation taking, in his words, its first steps toward the world stage. Toyota, he said, had finally begun to move. That's not the language of a logo on a side pod. That's the language of a manufacturer that intends to put its own people in the cockpit. And this is the exact moment the counterweight has to come in, because if you stop the story here, you'd have it wrong. The people running this thing have said, plainly and repeatedly, that it isn't what it looks like. Ayao Komatsu has been blunt. For the team's existence, the foundation is Ferrari, and without the Ferrari collaboration, he said, they're not there at all. When Toyota arrived, he framed it as addition, not substitution. Not, in his words, a case of replacing one with another. He's denied the team's morphing into a works Toyota outfit. He said flatly that Gene Haas isn't selling, that the offers came and got refused. And on the seat question, the one this entire video circles, he's been almost pointed about it. Put a Toyota driver in before he's ready, Komatsu said, and everyone would just say Toyota bought the seat with money. That, he insisted, isn't what they're doing. They pick on performance. There's a smaller detail that cuts against the villain reading, too. By Komatsu's account, one of the first things Akio Toyoda asked when the partnership formed wasn't about seats, or leverage, or engines. It was whether Ferrari would be okay with it. Make of that what you will. It's either real respect for the partner Haas depends on, or the instinct of someone who understands you don't kick out the foundation while you're still standing on it. Evidence backs that version too. Miata, one of the same Toyota juniors, spent part of 2025 testing for Alpine, not Haas. Hardly the behavior of drivers locked into a single garage. Ocon and Behrman were confirmed for 2026, long before the title deal was signed. Nobody's been forced out. On paper, this is a well-funded sponsor helping a small team grow and giving its own talent somewhere to learn. That's the honest reading, and it holds, which leaves the two seats and a very different amount of pressure on each. Behrman is the reason one of those seats looks secure, and not only because of the engine. In his first full season, he ran wheel-to-wheel with Max Verstappen, closed the year with a fourth in Mexico, the team's best result in years, and finished it out qualifying his far more experienced teammate. He's the Academy product who's actually delivering, and that's exactly the kind of driver Ferrari doesn't let go of lightly. That side of the garage is the protected one, for now, and the thing protecting it is Ferrari. As long as the car needs Maranello's engine and hybrid system, Ferrari keeps real leverage in the room, and Behrman, a Ferrari Academy product, sits comfortably inside that leverage. The other seat has no such shield. Esteban Ocon has no Ferrari ties, and by most accounts spent the back half of 2025 being outdriven by his younger teammate, with Komatsu openly less than thrilled about the campaign. If Toyota's pipeline is ever going to deliver someone into a race seat on merit, that's the door it's standing closest to. But leverage is the whole game, and leverage moves slowly. Ferrari's engine keeps it in the conversation only as long as that engine's essential, and Toyota's own motorsport bosses have been asked, directly, whether they'll build their own. The answer, so far, is a careful one. No plans, they've said, at this moment. Read the second half of that sentence. It's the honest phrasing of a company that hasn't ruled anything out. So here's where it actually leaves you, and it's stranger than a simple takeover story. Every denial in this is probably true. Ferrari really is still the foundation. Toyota really has no engine on the way, at this moment. The drivers really are being picked on performance, and the team really isn't for sale. You could line up all of it, every quote, and build a completely reasonable case that nothing unusual is going on at all. And every one of those true statements is also exactly what you'd say if you were building the thing quietly and didn't want anyone alarmed while you did it. That's the trap this story sets. The denials aren't a wall against the pipeline, they're the surface it's being built underneath. A works takeover would trigger resistance, regulation, a fight. So you don't stage a takeover, you fund a test program. You put your champions in an old car for 14 days. You build a simulator and a wind tunnel, and you let the word pipeline do its work in a press release nobody reads twice. Ferrari spent a decade treating that garage as its own waiting room, confident the seats would always come back. They may still. Behrman may climb toward Maranello, another Academy kid may drop into the empty seat, and the old arrangement may simply carry on. Or Ferrari may look up one season and find that the room it thought it owned has quietly filled with someone else's people, someone else's data, someone else's money, and realize the plan stopped working long before anyone admitted it had. So that's the one to leave with, and the one worth arguing about below. When a company tells you, again and again, that it isn't building something, while it very visibly assembles every single piece of it, do you believe the words, or do you believe the machinery?